Right there, what's happening? My name's Dave Charlesworth. I'm an illustrator, an author, and dreamweaver. And me and my mate, another Dave McCluskey, who you might have heard of from the Boyfriend fame, very popular book, came together one day and we decided to collaborate. We both wanted to see what we'd come up with if we were both given a very vague idea. And the idea we came up with was tattoos. Both went away, came up with the story, and compiled it into a single book called Ink. And it's out now at the time of recording this. And I think it's pretty fucking boss. So I think you'll think it's boss as well. So there's going to be a link in the description down below or wherever it is on these apps. But a lot of my mates, they're not big readers. And they asked, oh, is there going to be an audio book? And Dave is sensational when it comes to producing work. He's got a work ethic like nobody I know. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be an audio version of this at some point in the future. But I decided to record the opening couple of pages of my short story. It's called With You Forever. Here, post it on the internet to see if I can whet your appetite a bit. So if you like spooky stories about ghosts, tattoos, and weird cocktails made out of tango and gin, then you're going to love my first story in this compilation. You'll love Dave's even more, because he's fucking great. But I'm only going to read mine for now, so let's get on with it. Morning was a distant dream to the city, and though she slumbered, still she lived and breathed. Her streets were filled with those who never truly slept. The revellers, the workers, and, sadly, those who were simply trying to survive to see one more morning. One of the latter sat huddled and shuddering in one of the many alleyways that snaked through the roads by the docks. She lay there, soaked to the bone, as water chugged from a broken pipe somewhere far above, funneling the torrential rain into the doorway she'd sought refuge in. A single sodium light, a remnant from a far older time, stood as a lone watchman in that dark corner of the city, its weak orange glow barely reaching the girl. It was no wonder then that Charlie did not see her at first. She appeared, at a casual glance, to be a mere bundle of rags, and Charlie, exhausted from a long night shunting freight, was moving on autopilot. His mind was focused on the prospect of collapsing into his bed. And then the rags began to sob. Despite this, Charlie did not stop. Not entirely, though his pace did slow. The city was rife with homeless, and he was not entirely apathetic to their plight. He had found himself living payday to payday himself, and rumours of layoffs at the docks were abounded. If those wicked whispers became manifest, he could easily see himself slipping through the cracks of society, and not long after, joining the ranks of the destitute and forgotten. Then something about the girl caught his eye. Though the clothes she wore were soaking and filthy, they were new. Her designer trainers had only been on the market for a couple of weeks at most, and the grime on her jacket was fresh. It was likely she had a home to get back to, but had found herself unable. Perhaps she was drunk and lost. And while homelessness was something Charlie could sympathise with, he had no first-hand experience in that department. Drinking too much and waking up outside and in the cold and on the wet floor, on the other hand, that was something he was far more familiar with than he would like to admit. "You all right, love?" he said, finally stopping. Slowly, the girl raised her head. It took some effort, as the hooded jacket she wore appeared to weigh a ton with how much water it had absorbed. The girl's face was revealed, but even in the dim light of the alley, her appearance was striking. Electric blue hair tumbled down across a face that was encroached by tattoos snaking up from her neck. Lips laden with metal hoops quivered as she tried, but failed, to form words. Her eyes were swollen and red from crying. But still, Charlie knew this girl. How could he not? It had been impossible to even glance at a social media app and not see her face. Amber had been missing for days now. Her mother had died quite suddenly, and she had fled her home, leaving her father and brother in a state of distress. Amber? He asked. With a weak nod, she confirmed her name. Are you okay? I'm tired, she whispered. Yeah, was all Charlie could manage to say. He would gladly admit that he was the last person who should be trying to console a lost teenage girl. He barely knew what to say to his mother when they would have their monthly calls, so what hope did he have of finding the right words here? He paused, trying to conjure something warm and positive to say, but instead, the alley spoke for him. The wind brought with it Amber's sobs, which echoed out from behind him, and above, the wailing creaking of rusted pipes grew louder. Oh God, Amber cried out, though her voice was lost in the cacophony. It's all right, Charlie said, trying to sound as though he knew what he was doing. I'll call someone. People have been looking for you. I know. Shaking from the effort, the girl braced herself against the rain-slick wall and rose to her feet. Charlie moved forward to try and help, but the look of horror on her face caused him to pause. He stepped back and glanced up the alleyway from where he had just came, hoping for someone to help share his burden. Perhaps even relieve him of it, but all he found were the dancing sprites of broken raindrops leaping from the cobbled ground. In that brief moment of distraction, Amber had staggered away from her hiding place. She stared past Charlie and screamed before turning on her heels and racing away, skittering and splashing down the flooding road. Once more, he turned to see what had spooked the girl, and his heart lurched. There was someone there. It was a pale shade of a naked figure in the darkness at the end of the alley, arm outstretched and reaching for him. With a blink, the vision vanished, and he found himself alone. Exhaustion, he rationalised. Between the long shift he had just completed, the wet, the cold, and the lost girl, his mind was slipping into a state of sleep-deprived stupor. Tucking his head into his chest, Charlie resumed his trudge home. After a well-deserved sleep, he would find someone on social media who knew the girl and inform them of where he'd seen her last. Hopefully, she would be somewhere relatively close and easily located. Amber's dead body would be found the following morning. Her passing would forever play on Charlie's mind. He would often wonder if he could have done more to help the girl, chiding his lack of foresight. His guilt was unfounded, however, as there was nothing more he could have done for her that night. There was nothing anybody could have done to save her from what would come to pass. Her death was as guaranteed as the rising morning sun. And that's the prologue there. And in a genius bout of writing that I think you could only describe as Merengian, the next chapter starts with the rising sun, with our protagonist getting up from bed. And inevitably, she falls foul of the same fate as that girl. And there's twists and turns and characters galore for you to discover. If you get a hold of this book, Ink by me and D.E. McCluskey, out now in all good bookshops, well, Amazon at least, in Kindle format and paperback. And I believe Dave has signed copies, but you'll have to get in touch with him personally for that. Right. Thanks for listening. Take care.